My name is Michael and I work at Michaels Bookshop in Ramsgate, which is a second-hand bookshop. This is a general second-hand bookshop. We don't have a lot to do with prized collectible books, so I'm going to walk you around. This is world history, books arranged by country, and I suppose averagely priced, well under a fiver, most of it. So we then come to British history in chronological order, and it is what you really would expect to get with British history. We then come to a 50p sale section, so there are 3 bookcases of this. All the books are 50p, and why this happens I can sort of explain to you. So we code the books by date when they come in, and they go onto the bookshelves, and then after a while, probably a year or 2, we come along and anything we've had for the year or 2 gets reduced in price, and then next time we come round we reduce the whole lot that we'd reduced before. Look, there they are, to 50p each, and when those don't sell, and a lot of them don't, they go off to Books for Africa and they deal with the recycling of them. Right, we're now on the military section. This is general military. Military was a very, very good subject for us, but partly because of the aging nature of the customers, and partly because of the information available on the internet, it's not selling quite as well as it used to. So we've recently reduced the size of our military section, although you can see it's still quite substantial, worth coming to the shop for if you're interested in military history. And yes, still substantial, probably the biggest section of military history there is in southern England. And then when we get to the end of military, we come to maritime, and this is civilian maritime here, so this will go on for quite a while, and it's what you would really expect, I suppose. It's quite a few bookcases of it. There's not a lot you can say. You're either interested in maritime books or you're not. This then comes on to military maritime, so you've got a subsection of military books, and they go on. I suppose these military maritime books, most of them are going to be under £5, but there will be some more expensive ones in there. We now come to aviation, and you can see, so lots of books about aeroplanes, very similar in arrangement to the way the maritime is arranged. So you've got the military aviation here, and then we'll come on to the poetry section. So this is the poetry section. I can stand back for this one so you've got a fair idea of the size of the thing. With poetry books, we don't buy very much in terms of mixed anthologies, so nearly all of our poetry books are whole books on individual poets, and that's what people want when they come into the bookshop. They normally ask something like, have you got poems by T.S. Eliot? And yes, we have. Then reference and foreign languages. This is a subject that doesn't do very well now because of the internet. Then going on down here to the children's section. Our children's section is popular with children. There are usually quite a few children in it. This section here tends to be older children's books, children's annuals. You can always pick up a children's annual for £1 or £3. Then we get on to the highly important area of the children's section, which is this section here. And you can see the major contenders: Mr. Men books, Mog, and Elmer the Elephant, Charlie and Lola, Peppa Pig, this type of stuff. We try to keep this type of stuff under £2 and a lot of it at £1, so that children can actually afford it, or in many cases so their parents can afford it. And we buy a lot of it back from parents because things don't last very long in terms of children's time span. They grow into something else. Some more expensive ones there, you see Asterix and Tintin are hard to get, so you might have to pay as much as £5 for one of those. Then we go on to children's non-fiction, and children's non-fiction is not a very good subject for us. We then come on to Ladybird books, and you can see we've got quite a lot of Ladybird books. I suppose what you would expect in a second-hand bookshop. It's hard to say really, because not many second-hand bookshops seem to have much of a children's section. I don't know why. And then children's fiction. So children's fiction is just an alphabet of children's fiction. So that goes on down the line. We sell a lot of children's fiction. Children read a great deal. They don't need much encouragement. The best encouragement really is if their parents read, come to the bookshop and buy books for themselves and let their children choose books in the children's section. And there's a lot of that going on in here. Lots of families come to buy children's books. I'm sorry, we have people in this section who are vertically disadvantaged. I think that's the right way to say it. And this goes on. I mean, you can see you're passing Harry Potter at the moment. Still remarkably popular. But yes, this just goes on as you would expect. And we're coming to the end of the children's section. So we've got some older children's books here. These are mostly bought by adults from themselves, and then very important stuff like Where's Wally and Alfie, Zog. Right, now we go on to the railway section, which there's not much you can say about a railway section. It's books about railways. We tend to do much more with the specialist books on individual areas and not very much in terms of what you might call the big book of railways. Motoring, well, once again, motoring books are not selling very well now. I think they're replaced by the internet. To all intents and purposes, we sell a bit. Then going on to the cookery section, well, that's just what you would expect of a cookery section, I think. We try to have the type of stuff that you wouldn't pick up cheaply in the charity shop, or not be likely to. So we have to try to have reasonably good cookery books, and we're always buying mountains of cookery books and selling them. It's just an ongoing thing. So coming round the corner here now, and this section here is mostly graphics of some sort or another. So they're not comics but comic books. One of the smallest sections in the shop is the photography section, and this isn't because I want it to be small, I just can't get the stock. We don't really sell books about how to use your camera. I don't think anyone would buy them, but we sell a lot of books on photographers' works. Then we come on to a sort of the art section, and this is mostly on how to do art, this one. That is just that little section there, and then this goes on to general art, and then, as you can imagine, a few on art groups, as you would probably expect, and then we come on to the nitty-gritty of the art, which is an alphabet of books on individual artists, so that most people, when they're buying an art book, they say to me, oh, what have you got on Picasso? What have you got on Leonardo? They don't want the big book of art, and I'm afraid we don't really sell many. And this goes on as you would expect. So not much you can say about the art section, or at least not much I can think of saying. It just does what you would expect. It's a very good section for us. We particularly have difficulty getting enough contemporary art. It's an ongoing problem. I'll explain a bit more about how we source difficult books in a minute. So that was the art section. So then we come to general paperback fiction. So it goes up to the blue and red steps that you can see in the distance, and it moves along here. So most of what we actually sell is what I would call literary fiction, and it tends to be the authors that you would expect. So you can see Kingsley Amis sitting there, and Martin Amis, Henry James. This is the type of stuff that we sell a lot of. We do have, popular novels, but we really go out of our way to try and have the stuff that you can't pick up cheaply normally anywhere but in a second-hand bookshop. So price-wise with this type of stuff, I would think the average price is going to be £2.50, £3. There'll be a few things that are a bit dearer, but either because they're very thick or very hard to get, so you might pull out, or of course they're in new condition and they are literary. Has to be both things really. But you have to have things like Bernard Cornwell, which you couldn't really say is literary, but we have a large demand for it. It's a bit strange on that front, because what is a classic is now becoming really quite hard to judge, and I see Len Dayton has now appeared in the Penguin Classics. Well, I can't quite understand that, but since he went into Penguin Classics, he's been selling again, and I suppose you can see the type of things. We'll go on, we've got to D, so we'll go on down here, and then we'll carry on we're in E now. Now, you do have to appreciate that I really can't see what I'm doing. This is a narrow passageway and I'm doing my best for you, but there will be lots of omissions. It doesn't really matter because we don't post books to people, we don't sell on the internet, so you can only actually buy the books here if you come here, and if you don't, well, I'm afraid that's one of those things. My intention is always to have a good general bookshop where people can afford the books and it serves a normal sized town, I hope, fairly well. So where are we now? We've got into the H's. I can see Victor Hugo there, Christopher Isherwood there, so we know we've now come to I's. Then here we go. I don't quite know how a video of this length is going to work when I try to put it onto TikTok, but I shall give it a go. I probably should have split it up, but this is my first attempt at a walk around the bookshop, so you'll just have to accept the fact that you get what you get. I am trying to speed up a bit. I don't know whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, but I'll just do a sort of window wiper type action. We're heading up to O, so it won't be too long before we've got to the end of the alphabet, and it probably will work before my voice runs out completely. So but as I say, I hope this is giving you a good idea of what you might encounter if you come to the bookshop. Do bear in mind that we are closed 3 days a week, open 4 days a week. So the key here is to avoid Sundays and days beginning with T. I think you would be very annoyed if you turned up, especially for the bookshop, and found us closed. I mean, we obviously have a website that says this, and you can pretty much guess that as this is Michaels Bookshop, then the website is going to be michaelsbookshop.com. Science fiction next. So I'm going to do a fairly quick sweep of science fiction. This is a mixture of science fiction, fantasy and horror in one alphabet. And I mean, there's not a lot you can say unless you were to talk about individual books. So, and I mean, I could talk about individual books, but this wasn't the object of this. Although I must be getting a bit boring now. I'm rather running out of voice here. So perhaps we will talk about some individual books. Here we go. I'm very interested to know how this pans out in terms of internet databases. But where are we? Oh, we're getting up and down science fiction quite well, really. Well, I can talk about Terry Pratchett. Look, there he is down there. I've just read all the Terry Pratchetts. I thought I'd do it in chronological order, and we sell a lot of Terry Pratchett, but then we sell a lot of other authors in this section. There's Tolkien down there, and you can imagine we sell a lot of Tolkien. I mean, I don't think I could ever get enough of the stuff outside The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, it's always going to be a difficult one. So we'll go along here, and then we'll go and look at crime fiction. So crime fiction is going to be fairly cheap in here, mostly £1 or £2, and we won't give it a lot of time because I think I'm running out of it. You can see the crime fiction section fairly well. We'll do a very quick sweep of, this is the travel section, and then this goes on to the humour section, true crime section, and then down here performing arts, which once again a quick sweep, and we'll go up around the corner and look at some more non-fiction sections. So this is hardback fiction. Hardback fiction goes on for quite a bit, and as you can imagine, you get authors that are popular and authors that are not so popular. But there's P.G. Wodehouse down there, looking like they usually do. Then literary biography, which obviously is just books about authors. It sort of goes on a bit that. It's a bit of a specialised area. Still more literary criticism. I don't really know what to say. You have to look at it. We've got a health section here. This doesn't sell very well. I don't know why. Psychology section. Well, this is a good section for us. We sell a lot of psychology books. I think we have a lot of academics in the area that are interested in that. Sports section, not a good section for us. Don't know why. Religious section. I suppose we sell an awful lot of Bibles. And a certain amount of general Christian theology. Then we have the world's religions, Judaism. You can see Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism. The chair's in the way a bit, and then we come on to spiritualism and self-help, where we have more of a sort of occulty theme. This sells fairly well for us. One of the things that we do sometimes is tarot cards, and I managed to buy some bankrupt stock of new tarot cards, so they're sitting up there. I'm told you're only supposed to receive them as a gift, and they should be new and sealed, and you shouldn't have asked for the gift, so that's a bit complicated. You can see we're in this sort of area where well, aliens and UFOs, mythology. We come then to the philosophy section. Philosophy's a good one for us when we can get it, and we've got a reasonable philosophy section. Politics, there's nothing of any great importance. We then come to second-hand ordnance survey maps, and then we come to local history. So these are all books about Kent and books about the rest of the UK, but mostly books about Kent. Because we're in Kent, you can see that we've got an awful lot of what you would expect. We then come to our own publications. Now, this is the only thing we do sell online from our website. We do cheap reprints of local antiquarian books that have become unaffordable. And we do them in a staple bound form. We do books for local authors. We do reprints of old guides to the area. And this is stuff you can buy from our website. Then architecture, which obviously you get a lot of Pevsners with architecture. If you've not used a Pevsner for a particular area, so there are 2 for Kent, I recommend you give it a go. Then we come to woodwork, a great many woodworking books. And then we come to the metalworking and crafts associated with that. More of this metalworking type of stuff and a little bit of DIY, but there's not much interest in DIY books with the internet. Fashion and sewing, this does well for us. And then we come to music. So we mostly sell music that is from the 1950s onwards. We sell a lot of music biographies. So there you go. Obviously it's just a big alphabet of music biographies down here. Above the top of it's a sort of mixed up stuff, and then here you've come to Elvis, and so it goes on as you would expect. So we're nearly there now. Round here we've got new acquisitions. So these are the books that haven't been put away yet, that were in the window the day before yesterday. And yesterday we changed the window. And then coming in here, we've got some collectible books behind the till, some stuff that I probably haven't got around to dealing with. And here are the books we bought today. We went to the town of Deal, and that's mostly from Oxfam. I'm not really very worried about profit. So although they're probably about the same price as us, if I think we need it, I just buy it. So anyway, there you have it. The video was longer than I expected. I'm sorry if it's terribly boring, but it's a lot easier to walk around the shop with me than coming here and not knowing whether you want to. Do bear in mind again, we don't post books out, so if you see a book, you'll have to reserve it and come and get it, or get someone local to post it for you. I'm sorry, we just don't have time. We buy about 100 books a day, we sell about 100 books a day, maybe a bit more, and there's no real hope for spending the day wrapping up books and answering emails. We're not online booksellers. Thank you for your patience, and goodbye.